Welcome to Lesson 7, Comparing and Ordering Decimals. In this lesson, we're going to learn a couple of strategies we can use when we want to put decimals in order from smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest. If you look at the decimals here on the screen, you might think, well, that's pretty easy. I can put these in order. I would put 25 hundredths first because it's the smallest. Next, I would have 53 hundredths, then 71 hundredths, and the largest is 99 hundredths. So in this example, we were working with pretty easy decimals to put in order. Let's look at ones that are a little bit trickier. So here I've got some decimals that by looking at, you might say, these are a little bit trickier to figure out what order they should go in if I'm trying to order them from least to greatest. So I'm going to use my place value chart to help me out. So here I've got 7/10. I'll put it here in my place value chart. I've got 267 thousandths. I'll put it right there. I've got 7 hundredths and 43 hundredths over here. So I haven't put them in order yet. I've just put them on my place value chart to see what they look like. So one thing that you've learned already is that you can put zeros at the end of a decimal after all the numbers are done, and you haven't changed the value of that number. So let's take a look at what that will look like. So now I've added some zeros at the end, and I haven't changed the value. 7/10 is the same thing as 700 thousandths. 7 hundredths is the same as 70 thousandths, which is all essentially I've done. It's just added the zeros at the end. I can't add zeros at the beginning here. If I do that, I do change the value and what it's worth, but zeros at the end of a decimal after the numbers are done, I can always do. So just by looking at these, you could probably tell what order they would go in, but I'm going to use one more tool to help me out. I'm going to use a number line. This number line here goes from 0 to 1, and it's divided into tenths. And you might say, hey, wait a second. These are tenths, but up here I'm dealing with thousandths. So how can I make the two work together? Well, let's remember that I can take my tenths and turn them into thousandths easily by adding a couple zeros at the end. So 3/10 is worth the exact same amount as 300 thousandths. And 4/10 is the exact same amount as 400 thousandths. So now that my number line is divided into thousandths, I can easily put my numbers on there. So the first number, the smallest one that I can see from my list, is 70 thousandths. 70 thousandths would go approximately there on my number line. So let's move it down to there. Next, I would have 267 thousandths, which would go approximately over here on my number line. Here we go. I'm just going to put it below so my number line doesn't get cluttered. Next I would have 430 thousandths, which would go approximately over here. I'll move that one down. And finally 700 thousandths would go exactly right here on the number line. And so I can move that down. So now I see them in order from smallest to biggest. So here I've got another set of decimals. Some are to tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Remember, you could turn any decimal into a percentage by simply multiplying that decimal by 100, which takes, 2 seconds to do on your calculator? So if I take 0.8 or 8/10 times 100, and I punch that into my calculator, I see that it gives me the number 80. So that's 80%. So pause the video, go ahead and multiply the other three decimals here by 100 and see what the percentages are. So 139 thousandths turns into 13.9%. 43 hundredths turns into 43%. And 2/10 turns into 20%. Now that I've got the percentages, it's really easy to tell which is the smallest, next smallest, and so on. So if I were to order them from least to greatest, I see that 13.9% is the smallest. So I'll put a 1 there. Next biggest would be the 20%. So that's second. Next would be the 43%. That's third. And 80% is the largest. So that is fourth. So a very quick and easy strategy to order your decimals by turning them into percentage by multiplying by 100. So in this lesson I learned a couple of strategies to put decimals in order from smallest to biggest. One way was to first make sure all my decimals are out of thousands by adding zeros to the end of decimals that were out of tenths or hundredths, and then the number line is also helpful in this strategy to determine what order to put them in. And then I learned about turning decimals into percentages, which is a very quick and simple strategy. All I do is simply multiply each decimal by 100, and when I get my percentages, I can easily put them in order from smallest to biggest. That's just simply putting numbers in order from smallest to biggest. So please review the video again if you need to, and have fun comparing and ordering decimals.